You know, as a doctor, I hear this exact same story from my patients over 50 all the time. Let's call him John. So John wakes up feeling totally rested, checks his blood sugar, and bam, it's high. Again. He looks at me in total disbelief and says, "Doc, I didn't even touch dessert yesterday. I literally skipped the bread at dinner." If you're over 50 and experiencing this exact scenario, well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to solve this medical mystery together.
John asked me, I cut out sweets, so why on earth is my blood sugar still high? It's a question that brings so much frustration to millions of people every single morning. You know the drill. You've given up the soda, you skipped the birthday cake, you're trying your absolute best to eat healthy, yet those numbers just refuse to budge. I tell all my patients the exact same thing I told John. It is not your fault, and you are not failing. The truth is, high blood sugar after 50 is about so much more than just what's on your plate.
Section 1. The high blood sugar mystery. Going far beyond just eating sweets. Okay, let's dive right into this. To solve this mystery, we have to realize that after 50, our bodies change in these really quiet, subtle ways. The mechanisms we relied on in our 20s and 30s to process food, well, they begin to shift. When we explore how this develops over the years, it's pretty eye-opening. Between ages 30 and 40, your metabolism might be humming along just fine, but then, quietly, from age 40 to 50, that's a full 10 to 20-year period, a silent metabolic shift is taking place. Resistance is developing right under the surface. So by the time you reach 50 and beyond, and you finally notice high blood sugar despite changing your diet, this process has literally been developing for decades. It's a real slow burn.
Section 2. Insulin resistance at 50. Changing the body's core mechanisms. So let's define exactly what is happening internally with this slow burn. Insulin resistance is essentially the condition where your cells just stop responding to insulin signals. Imagine insulin as a key, right? A key that unlocks your cells so glucose can enter and be used for energy. Now, picture those cellular locks getting completely rusted over. The insulin is right there, trying to open the door, but the cells are just ignoring it. And because the doors won't open, all that glucose gets trapped, just floating around in your bloodstream. Meanwhile, your poor pancreas is working overtime, pumping out more and more insulin, desperately trying to force those doors open until the pancreas itself becomes completely exhausted.
We used to believe this really simple equation. Only eating sugar causes high blood sugar. But the reality for our bodies after 50 is that stress, poor sleep, and visceral belly fat are massive drivers of high glucose. Visceral fat, that's that deep fat wrapping around our internal organs, it isn't just sitting there passively. It actually acts like a highly active organ, constantly releasing inflammatory chemicals. This silent visceral inflammation is the exact rust we were just talking about that coats your cellular locks, secretly blocking your insulin signals, even if your plate is entirely sugar-free.
Now here's another absolutely critical piece of the puzzle. Muscles are your body's largest glucose storage tanks. Think of your muscles as giant reservoirs, perfectly designed to soak up and store the sugar from your blood. What's incredible is that when you move your muscles, they can literally vacuum sugar right out of your blood without even needing insulin to unlock the door. But as we age past 50, if we aren't highly active, we naturally lose muscle mass. You are quite literally losing your storage tanks. With fewer places to put the glucose, it has nowhere to go but to stay stuck in your bloodstream.
Section 3. The liver, stress, and sleep. Uncovering the causes of overnight high blood sugar.
Now what's really interesting here is this fascinating twist called gluconeogenesis. It's a very complex medical word, I know, but it simply means your liver can actually manufacture its own sugar out of thin air. Your body doesn't actually need you to eat sugar to have sugar in your blood. Think of your liver as a built-in emergency generator, designed to keep you alive during a famine. But when your body is insulin resistant, this generator gets stuck in the on position, pumping pure glucose into your blood even when you absolutely don't need it.
And this is exactly what was happening to my patient John. Let's walk through what we call the dawn phenomenon. Step 1. John tosses and turns all night worrying about retirement, which naturally spikes cortisol, his primary stress hormone. Step 2. That spike in cortisol acts as a massive alarm bell, signaling his liver to crank on that emergency generator to fight off the perceived stress. And finally, Step 3. John wakes up with high blood sugar without having eaten a single bite. His body was just trying to protect him, but it ended up trapping him in this ancient survival loop.
Section 4. The hidden culprits. Non-sweet but dangerous foods. Beyond internal stress, we also face everyday environmental traps. We all know to avoid obvious sweets like candy and cake, right? But think about these hidden culprits: white bread, breakfast cereal, pasta, fruit juice, white rice, and crackers. These heavily ultra-processed carbohydrates do two very dangerous things. First, in your digestive system, they break down into pure glucose almost instantly, spiking your blood sugar faster and harder than a piece of actual cake. Second, they directly feed that visceral inflammation we talked about earlier. They might not taste sweet on the tongue, but they are pure sugar and inflammation to your bloodstream.
Section 5. Small habits, big impact. Restoring the body's sensitivity. So, the crucial point is, how do we fix this? Here is how John actually turned his numbers around with 3 very gentle habits. The goal here isn't some extreme restrictive diet, but sustainable metabolic optimization. First, light physical exercises. Just a 10-minute stroll or some simple calf raises right after dinner physically forces those muscle storage tanks to vacuum up glucose. Second, managing stress. Try deep breathing before bed to quiet that cortisol alarm bell and protect your sleep, which completely stops the liver's emergency generator. Third, shift your menu. Instead of ultra-processed morning cereal, try a fiber and protein-rich breakfast like eggs with spinach, or maybe a healthy salmon salad for lunch. Protein and fiber act exactly like a sponge, keeping your blood sugar perfectly stable.
I always tell my patients to let this thought really sink in. High blood sugar cannot be simply explained by saying, eat less sugar. It's a complex metabolic puzzle involving your muscles, your liver, your stress levels, and decades of silent internal changes. If you have been beating yourself up because your numbers aren't perfect, despite all your hard work, please let that guilt go right now. Your body is navigating a really complicated shift, and it just needs a different, gentler kind of support.
Small daily changes really are the key here. Today, John's morning numbers are finally in range. Not because he starved himself, but because he worked with his body's changing metabolism. By building up your muscle storage tanks, managing your stress to soothe your liver, and dodging those hidden carbohydrates, you're giving your body exactly what it needs to thrive after 50. Be kind to your body. And I want to leave you with this final thought. What is one small, gentle habit, just one, that you can start today to help your cells open their doors again? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.